Hi, this is Mike Hendrickson, OSCON 2014 in Portland, Oregon with Piers Cawley. Piers, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. So you gave a really nice combination of talk, picture show, and song today.
I'd like to stress, by the way, that most of those people aren't dead.
Oh, I know.
A few people afterwards were like,
said, "Oh my God,
I didn't know about Larry." And I'm no, he's fine.
Yeah.
So I'd like to stress that
those are the people that have influenced you over the years.
At the end, Jim Wyrick and Why was about the fact that they've gone, and that's a great shame. And that he was here last year, wrangling drones and all that stuff. But for the rest, no, they're all still here and still kicking ass, taking names,
and influencing.
You.
Right, the people behind your shoulder,
standing behind my shoulder. Yeah.
As you learn to sing, that's what people do.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. The idea that I said in the talk was that you. When you sing, you often imagine the person who taught you the song stood behind your shoulder, passing it on, getting ready to clip you around the ear hole if you get it wrong. And some of the people who taught me songs would happily have done that if I did. And the people who taught them were there, back and back and back, all the way back till that song was new. And it's a sort of inspiring and terrifying thought at the same time. You kind of, when you're singing traditional songs, you've got a duty to the audience that you put the song over well, but you've got the duty to the song and to the people who gave you that song to sing it as well as you can, to give it the performance that it needs. And usually that's not a performance in a sense. With traditional song, the other sort of mantra is song, not singer. That you're there as a
steward,
as stewards. Yeah, we sometimes talk about song keepers or tradition bearers, but you're there as a channel for that song and for those guys back there and those women back there to pass that song on and to keep that song alive. Because the only harm you can do to a traditional song is not to sing it.
So that's kind of like, in a way, open source.
Yeah,
the intentions behind open source and how a community should work.
And how those songs are, and indeed the code that we pass on as developers, are ways in which we learn to understand ourselves in some respects, and become. So many of the songs, the traditional songs that I sing, they could have been written yesterday. There are songs that in my repertoire that I could imagine on Adele's last album, about the pain of a bad breakup gone wrong, that are hundreds of years old, and that humanity, that common humanity, has been enough for generation on generation on generation to think that song is worth singing and passing down to the next. And that says that not only were people hundreds of years ago just like me, but all the people in between had that common thread of humanity and and open source is such a new tradition by comparison. But there is that thing that you can look at a piece of code that's an old piece of code, although it's been kind of gardened over the years, and see and connect in strange ways with the person who first wrote that, who may no longer be around, and that it's immortality of a kind. And it's one of the things that Larry Wall says about programming languages is that everyone says programming languages are for humans to communicate to computers and make computers do what they want, and they're not. A programming language is a language that humans use to communicate to other humans what they want the computer to do. Because if you were going to use a language to tell the computer what to do, you'd be programming in machine language. You'd be doing the John von Neumann trick of saying anyone spending time making an assembler is just wasting expensive computer time, and you should just, damn it, write the numbers down. So I'm so not sure where I'm going with this. That thing about the way in which that communicates a shared knowledge about a problem domain, about how you want to go about doing things. I suppose it's kind of why Emacs and Vi is such a holy war. Because it's two very different philosophies about the way you muck about with code.
I like this to put this in context of craft.
Yeah.
That one thing that I think developers nowadays seem to ignore is that there's a craft around
Oh,
things.
God, yeah.
Much
Huge
like,
craft
much like
tradition.
music, there's a craft and there's a passing it down and all that. But I'm not sure that everyone gets that a software developer really needs to hone their craft as well as the skills and tools that they use.
That thing that in Rommel's talk today, he was talking about some research that says the job of a computer programmer is 18% coding and 78% basically being a human being and understanding human beings and all that kind of squishy stuff.
Yeah, and Leslie talked about that too, Leslie Hawthorne, about understanding human beings.
Absolutely.
Tim talked about it.
That was an awesome talk.
Empathy with Tim as well, the DevOps empathy.
And you kind of, to write a good program, you have to understand your users. It's easier when you're going to be the user, although that can be kind of scary because you go to places in your head that don't necessarily, to do it well, you've got to be reflective and...
Oh, I thought that was really
we don't
essential
like being reflective.
With Leslie's talk as well.
Yeah.
When you're reflecting, make sure you're reflecting of everyone.
Yeah.
Not your past.
That whole listen, change sort of challenge idea that's
exactly.
in that talk. Yeah.
So she gave a really great talk. You did. And you said something at the beginning of your talk about that you're recovering.
Right now I'm...
Or you're coming... It was your coming out?
Coming out, yeah. Right now I'm about... I mean, I know, the mask is on. This is about the worst I've had it with depression. Up and down? I wouldn't say I'm bipolar. I don't have that sort of mega hyper thing that you see people having. But I've had trouble with depression in the past, and I've been very lucky in that I've just gone down there, and it's been horrible, and I've got some therapy, and it just got better. And I know that for some people that's not what happens, and I worry about it this time, because this time, sort of 3 weeks before OSCON, and I'm kind of already feeling panicky, and it's really it's not a nice place to be when you just because there's no reason.
Yeah.
I'm sad.
And I wonder how many people understand that, though. Because I could see it being confused with developers who work in their own world, on their own code, in their own total zone, not understanding that that's happening. When did you start to understand this was happening to you? I mean, what woke you up?
It's, for me, it's a qualitatively different thing. That flow, that tunnel vision you're talking about is energizing. For me, at least, that it's lightning sparking from your fingertips. That photograph I had in the slideshow of Larry Wall doing that, and you don't see in the bottom of that picture, he's actually got a laptop keyboard down there, and he's doing that. I control the world. And that feeling of power when everyth's right and the code is just dancing to your fingertips and it's doing what you want, and that's just awesome. And the depression feeling is just the polar opposite of that, and you're not going to mistake it for the tunnel vision. You really aren't, and it's just. I mean, Paul talked about the idea of the awesome sandwich that suddenly is like ashes. I had a dreadful experience a few weeks before I came, where I just started on some antidepressants, which turned out not to be too good for me. They just sent me to sleep. When I went to a Sacred Harp sing in Newcastle, and it was great, and singing Sacred Harp is one of the great pleasures of my life. And although I kind of enjoyed it, and that physical sensation of harmony around you is amazing, at the same time there was a part of me that was just sat there going, am I really enjoying this? And was just second guessing myself all the time, and was just sort of sitting there and going, you're not really enjoying this, and was just sort of slowly pulling me down. And it was fine, but it was also that strange sensation of something that before would have had me coming home just walking on air and I can move mountains here, was in fact I came home and thought,
well, I think it's great that you can talk about it, because I think transparency in ourselves transparency in the way we work and transparency in our organizations and the way we do things, I think is important for everyone.
But that's an enormous privilege that I have.
Yes, it is.
You know, that thing that I'm one of the guys that you trust every year to spend 5 minutes on your stage, entertaining your crowd with a title that I didn't give you until 2 weeks before I came here. You knew I was going to sing something. I'd pitched a talk to the chairs here that was way darker in the sense than the one I eventually gave, which wasn't the cheeriest of talks, I freely admit. And you're probably going to invite me back next year, I kind of hope. So I have huge power and privilege in that regard, and
responsibility,
and that comes with great power comes great responsibility, as Uncle Ben said. You know, it is Uncle Ben, that if I don't use that, and also the thing that I've found this year is that I've been open about the way I'm feeling and the fact that I'm depressed, and it's being enormously helpful. I'm able to cope with that far more because people are like just sympathetic and supportive, because people are awesome. And it's another thing I learned from singing, I guess, that if you let people be good, they'll be good. You know, that if you give someone, if you say, I'm terribly sorry, and the depression is saying you don't want to tell them that. You really don't want to tell them that because they'll just be awful to you. They'll be nasty and they'll be horrid and you're worthless and you should just go. And if you can, and I know that that's not an opportunity for everyone, I know that's not an option for everyone, if you can manage to get past that, people are just awesomely helpful. Yeah. It's like, as a singer, you learn. The first time I'd sing traditional ballads, 30 verses of ballad, whatever, 15 minutes of one guy singing one song unaccompanied, and an audience who will sit there rapt while you do that, while you miss 3 verses that are entirely vital to the story, while you sing one verse twice and in reverse, while you do all sorts of things, and at the end of the thing they'll be, you were awesome, and they will come up to you and say, you were brilliant. And the first most important thing
you're in your head thinking,
I'm thinking I was just awful. And the most important lesson I ever got from a singer is when people do that to you, you just say thank you, because anything else you're saying to me is you're saying you suck at judgment. So, but the audience wants you to be good, and will do an amazing amount of stuff in their head to make their memory of what you just did be good.
Yes.
And that's awesome, and that's power. And that same thing happens to being open about depression. And part of that, Paul Fenwick gave me the courage to do that with his talks about gig depression last year and the year before. And
Leslie opened it up today.
And Leslie even more with the whole acknowledgement of privilege, but also because I've got that privilege of being someone that people listen to. If I'm not taking advantage of that to be open about that stuff, then maybe that means that the next person who comes along and is in that space somewhere like this is able to trust their friends and strangers with that thing, and be hopefully confident that they will get the support and the help and the hugs or whatever that they need.
Yeah.
And that's just, if I can't take advantage of where I'm standing to do that, then what kind of man am I?
I think you did, and I think I can't wait to see what you will do again next year for us. Piers, thank you.
I think my vague plan is I've got, you may have noticed I've lost weight. Mm-hmm. I've shed about 80 pounds. And, sorry, I'm running onto your thing. And I'm reacquiring vanity. And because it's one of those things... Reacquiring vanity, yeah. So the threads and all that sort of stuff. And it's one of those things that makes me think, I've spent a lot of money on this jacket. It's going to fit for a long time. Damn it.
And that does change. I lost like 40 pounds. Yeah. When you buy new clothes, you want to keep them.
So there's that song from Wicked, which I don't actually know very well, called Reacquiring Gravity or something like that. So I think there's an Ignite talk in me when I can work out what the parody needs to be.
That would be cool.
It probably won't happen, but
Thanks, Piers.
No problem. Thank you very much.